y'all, Spideera here, and this is a ranking review for Lovely Writer. This is a story in which a male BL writer, that is, he's a author of BL novels, he's coerced into assisting with a film that will be based on his book. So they're making him go and kind of, look at the people they're going to cast and give his opinion, stuff like that. He's an introvert, and he does not like the fact that he's being forced to write BL, and he actually wants to write in another genre. So he's doing one of those things where he's going along with it because he wants to do what he wants to do. So he has to appease his manager in order to get what he actually wants. So he has absolutely no interest in the BL genre whatsoever. So, long story short, he goes to the casting and the hot male lead falls for him, and he forces him to acknowledge him regardless of how much he tries to keep his distance from him. Okay, that's all I can really say about the summation of the show, because anything beyond that would really be a spoiler, because this is one of those topsy-turvy, round and round, oh my god kind of stories. So, that being said, it is definitely a 10. Now, let me be clear on this. It is a 10 because it is a damn good story. And they do an excellent job. The acting is great. The production is great. The sound quality is great. Everything about this story is really very good. Extremely good. And it's unique. The way that the additional characters, the side characters are portrayed, and how much of a role they play, and how much of an effect that they have on the main characters, even when the main characters are unaware that these other characters' behaviors are going to interfere with what's going on between the two of them. That really, to me, took a hell of a talented writer to come up with this many twists and turns without losing the audience. This is one that you would have to watch all the way through and pay close attention to, because characters can be introduced at the beginning who don't seem relevant, and then 4 episodes later it turns out that that's the aha guy. So and so in that regard, it is one that keeps you on your toes a bit. I say a bit because it's not so intriguing that we're dealing with some kind of a spy movie, or a mystery movie or something like that. It's not that detailed. It's just that there's enough in between to if I'll put it this way, if you like gossipy type stories, where, oh my god, he did this, oh my god, she did that, then this will be right up your alley. It's that kind of intrigue. It's not the kind of something really happened and now we have a problem type thing. Now, let's see. It does meet all the criteria to be a 10. The guys act like guys. They have great acting. There's a good plot. There's a good story. There's reasonable pacing. There's a few things that I found a tiny bit angsty about it, but not enough for me to say, oh my god, this shouldn't be a 10. And I'm not sure that if I were to read the book, which I won't, but if I did, I kind of get the feeling that the people who produced the show may have veered off from the book, because some of the things that were in the show, I would find it hard to believe that the original writer threw that in there and thought that was a good idea. That sounds like something that a director or a production manager would throw in for context, just to make the story more appealing on film. Again, I can't really tell you what, because it would be a spoiler, because everything in this film is a spoiler. So, moving on. Now, there's a huge downside in this story, though. And I try to avoid mentioning it, but I'm going to mention it anyway. And this show throws a lot of shade. And that, again, I think is not the writer. I think this is coming from the people who produced and directed. In fact, the shade is so heavy in this film, it makes me think that the people who made the film have issue with the BL industry as a whole. They don't like the BL industry. If this were supposed to be a commentary on BL, This would be one of those like TMZ specials where they're trying to dig up dirt and say, oh my God, that man was walking with a 12-year-old. He must be a pedo. This film gave off that vibe to me. As good as the story itself is, as well done as the production was, by the time you get almost, I don't know, even 3 or 4 episodes deep, the shade, the undertones, the mild accusations towards women, towards the industry, towards you name it, they made it a point to throw all this extra negative in there. I wasn't going to mention it when I did this review, and then I realized it really wouldn't be fair not to, because if they felt the need to put it in there, then I'm going to feel the need to respond to it. And I'm not just going to give them a blanket 10 and say, yay. If that shit wasn't in here, this would have been a rocket ship over the top, over the moon type 10, because it was that good of a story. But they squeezed the lemon on this one with the unnecessary amount of side-eyeing that they gave to this industry. And honestly, I don't understand it myself. If it's something that's that abhorrent to you, then find something else to do. I write BL because I love BL. I like writing about men because men are hot. They're sexy. I like men. As a female, I really like men, the male anatomy. I like the way they behave. I like their attitudes. I like their bravado, their strength, all of that. Not saying they're gods and I don't idolize them, but I like them. And that's why I write the stories that I write. If I did not like them, and I had more of a love for horses, then I'd be writing stories about horses. But in the writing a story about a horse, I'm not going to throw shade at men just because I don't like men, if that were the issue. So I don't understand why people get in certain industries if they're not fans of that industry. And unfortunately, this particular film gave me that impression that not necessarily the person who wrote the book or the original story, but the person or persons who made the film has some serious issue with the BL industry. And to be honest, it kind of reminds me, if you've watched The War of Why, that one has a lot of that kind of, we want to make money off this industry, but we're going to bash the hell out of it at the same time. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not reviewing War of Why right now. I'll talk about that when I do, if it's on a playlist. Just like War of Why is an excellent story, Lovely Writer is an excellent story. It's just there's a lot of bashing, and I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so moving on. Will you like it? Now, I'm not sure that this is one that will appeal to everybody. And I say that because the main portion of this story deals with corporations, families, and industry-related nuance. So what it amounts to is, if you're a really young viewer and you have not had any experience in corporate world yet, like you haven't held your first job, or you have not dealt with managers and supervisors and expectations on that level, some of this stuff might go over your head. And I don't mean that you won't understand it, because it's basic. You will understand it, but you might not get the gist as to, well, why would this person agree to that if they don't like it? Because as a student, you still have the right to say, oh, that's a hell no. And what's the worst that's going to happen? You get a lower grade on your report or something. It's not the same as losing your potential livelihood. So in that regard, corporate industries are different in that, for instance, if you piss off a publishing house and then you try to go to another publishing house, they can blackball you. And being blackballed basically means they will send out word to all other houses that you suck and they shouldn't work with you. So unless you have a reputation like Stephen King or George Lucas or something on that level, to where nobody can touch you anymore because everybody has seen your talent. If you're not at that level and you're just starting out, or you've only put out a few pieces of work, then being blackballed in the industry, sadly, is very common. And that's in any industry. It's not just hell, you could work for you could work for Walmart and get blackballed out of retail. It's that serious when it comes to corporate industry. So this story has a lot of that, where people are, in the back rooms and doing dealings behind each other's back, or they're, trying to push narratives that may or may not be true, all for the sake of marketing and so forth. So if you don't really understand that world, or that's a world that annoys you, then you're not going to like this one, because there's a lot of that in here. So you would have to have some basic knowledge of, corporations, in essence. The other thing is, this is one of those circumstantial romances, and unfortunately, it does have a lot of the fallbacks in it. So you start off thinking this is one thing, then they're going to throw you a loop and change it, and it turns out to be something else. And in most cases, it still goes back to a little bit of that cringe stuff. The I'm trying to say this without spoiling the show here. A lot of the stuff that they fall back on, the narratives that you find that are running in a lot of BLs, that are somewhat unnecessary, but they're in there anyway. And so there's quite a bit of that in here as well. Now, the story does have a very nice looking cast. Even the nerdy looking writer, he's kind of cute in a kind of puppy dog way. He's not hot and he's not sexy. He's just cute in a puppy dogish kind of way. So I guess the main question of liking it or not, ultimately, as long as the main backbone of the story, if the corporate stuff is not a problem for you, then you'll like the rest of the story. And I put it that way because you can get caught up in the weeds of the corporate stuff and then miss the enjoyment and the entertainment that this particular show has. Most BL fans will like this show. It has just enough of everything. You've got some sex, but it's not over the top. This is a censored version, by the way. And even the censored version, they censored it well. So this isn't one where they took all of the sex out and now you don't know who's doing who. This one is one of those where the sex is not, it's not like non-con. You don't have guys, choking each other out or anything like that. It's woven into the story, and it's very well done. So ultimately, yeah, if you're a BL fan, you're probably going to like this. If you're a yaoi fan, it's iffy as to whether or not you'll like it, because most of the drama is not physical. Most of the drama in here is emotional or mental gymnastics, and people doing things that they know they shouldn't do, but they're doing it anyway because it's about the money, not about the relationship, and so forth. So in that regard, if you can handle lots of drama, lots of emotion, lots of a little bit of the cutesy stuff, then yeah, you'll like this one. The only downside, other than them throwing shade at the fan base, is the fact that there's a lot of corporate lingo and that sort of thing. So as long as, like I said, if you can get through that part, everything else is cool. Now, I love corporate stuff. I'm a business major, so I love all that stuff. So for me, that's one reason that I was like over the moon with this when I first saw it, because it hits all the nerves that get me going, and that, it's about a writer and I'm a writer. It's about business, I'm in business, so a lot of it resonated with me personally, which I really liked, until they started throwing shade. Then I was a little pissed, but I ain't gonna lie. That doesn't take away from the fact that this is still one of my favorites, and chances are the original, not the censored version, because without the sex, honestly, I will not watch this uncensored version ever again. But I'm sorry, I will not watch the censored version ever again. I will, however, watch the uncensored version a multitude of times, because what can I say? These guys put on a show. It was quite, thumbs up for that. Okay, so is there anything important that you need to know? For the most part, there's only one season. I already talked about the censorship, so I don't need to go over that again. But this is one of those stories where even with the majority of the sex scenes removed, the story itself doesn't really lose a lot. So, it's they need it. Don't get me wrong. This story would totally suck without any sex at all. But it can get away with a small amount, which is what you get in the censored version. The uncensored version, it's not that they have a lot of sex, but they have hotter sex. And that's what, to me, made the difference in whether or not I'd watch it again, is because of that. There's really not a lot that you need to know. There are a few things in here that would be trigger warnings, but I believe that YouTube already has it set where they will tell you that, click this and verify that you really want to see this next episode. You don't get a lot of that. There's maybe 1 or 2 episodes, I think, where they're going to ask you to verify that you're old enough and you know what you're getting yourself into. Because realistically, it's not that deep. The violence and things that occur, it's really not that deep. But because we have such a very sensitive world now where anything and everything seems to make people cry, they have to tell you when something's getting ready to happen. So in that regard, I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but they certainly have no problem making you click on it to let you know that spoilers will abound. So other than that, there's not really anything you need to know. There's only 1 season. I don't think there's any spin-offs. Everything is pretty much covered in the show itself, and it's relatively fast-paced, so it's not one that, takes forever to get to the point. They kind of throw you in there from episode 1, and then it is a decent paced roller coaster ride from that point forward. So yeah, what can I say? It's good. I enjoy it. And hopefully you will too. I mean, I really think this is one where, as long as you can tolerate tolerate all the side-eyeing, the story itself really is excellent. All right, so with that in mind, if you watch it and your opinion doesn't necessarily match mine, please let me know in the comment section below. Because after all, if you like it, you'll love it. And if you don't, then you won't. This is Spideera signing off, and I'll see you in the next one.